So today I'm in the Polestar 3. It's Polestar's SUV vehicle. I guess it's a competitor to Tesla's Model Y and a few other vehicles in that category. This is just going to be my initial impressions. I've only got the car for 2 or 3 days, and then in a few weeks' time, Polestar is going to give it back to me to have for a week or two so that I can do a full review. So if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, and then you'll be notified when that video goes live. For the meantime, my initial impressions. Let's dive right in. This car confuses me. It's a lovely car to drive some of the time. It's rattling around, very noisy. We'll put that down there for a moment. It is both a lovely car to drive and it isn't a lovely car to drive. Let me explain. Unlike most SUVs, this one sits a little bit lower to the ground. Especially you can notice this from the outside of the vehicle. And even when you're in it, looking up at different cars, vans, etc. on the road, rather than looking equally at them. So what this means is that it clings to the road a lot more, almost like a sports car or a performance electric car, like a Tesla Model 3, for example. And this is fantastic, especially around corners. It just clings to the road, like it doesn't want to leave it, so you can absolutely fly around different corners and stick to your lines of the road, and you're not going to have any problems there. However, where the ride is not so nice is the suspension. While researching this car, a few people have actually praised the Polestar 3 for its suspension. I believe one quote is that it feels like a magic carpet ride, but my experience isn't that. It seems to take potholes, any bumps in the road, drains, etc. very, very aggressively. I mean, just here you can probably see out the front and out the side window here, we're sort of undulating. The road is perhaps not the smoothest it could be. There are no big potholes, no big drains, nothing crazy, but still I can feel every single groove in the road, and it's not a comfortable driving experience, and it's not what you'd expect from an SUV, and I assume it's because we are lower to the ground. Now, this is the base model, which does start at around £69,000, I believe. So, you know, that's more expensive than the launch edition of the new Tesla Model Y, making this a bit of a higher end SUV. I guess perhaps starting to compete in price with the likes of Genesis vehicles. Now, what are you getting for your money? With this base model, you don't have the fastest acceleration time. It's not slow by any means, but I've driven EVs that are a lot quicker off the mark than this one. Included in the price of the vehicle, you do get Polestar's autopilot equivalent called Pilot Assist. We'll come back to that later, so you don't have to pay extra for that like you would on a Tesla. You get this sunroof as standard, you get all the options on the screen as standard. It doesn't have the nice caliber brakes. It does still have gold coated tyre pressure caps, whatever the technical term for that is, and all the trim options are standard that you can see here. I don't actually think that this car offers the best value for money. When it comes to the infotainment screen, you don't have any options for entertainment while you're charging like you would on a Tesla or some other electric vehicles. So it does feel a little bit limited, if I'm honest, and my initial impressions of Pilot Assist are great. Like I say, we'll get back to that later on. You do get CarPlay in this, unlike a Tesla, and a lot of other EVs also offer CarPlay. That comes as standard, but this runs Android Auto or Android Automotive. They've changed the name so many different times, I can't remember what it is now. This basically means that Polestar's system is essentially a skin of Android. It has Play Store, it has the Play Store built in. You get Google Maps as your basic navigation, and you can access all of that for free here on the dash. The range has been pretty good so far. I'm driving around Oxfordshire at the minute, heading down for another car experience. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that. And we've done quite well. We started off up in the north on 90% charge, and we've made it here so far And we've got 42% of the charge remaining, which is pretty impressive considering we've driven well over 200 miles at this point. Polestar reckons that gives me 120 more miles of range. In theory, if that's true, I've only got 51 miles left to drive, so we should be able to make it all the way to Reading without having to stop to charge, but we'll see. I will say that the range estimates have been particularly accurate on the Polestar. One complaint of mine from other EVs is that these estimations are not great, whereas Polestar's seems to adapt as you go, and it does seem pretty true to it. What I don't like though is that while the percentage increments go up, as you'd expect, in increments of 1, the range estimates don't. They are rounded to the nearest 10. So right now it says 120, it's been saying 120 for a little while, so that means it's anywhere between 120 and 130, and that's just not good. If there's one thing a car should do, it's tell you how much further you can go in. It seems pretty basic to me, but for some reason Polestars cut that out. When you do get into lower numbers, it goes down in increments of 5 from what I've observed, but that's still not great, Polestar. So I would change that rather swiftly in the system if I was you. What you can see here is you do have a smaller driver's display right here in front of the steering wheel, as well as the portrait-oriented one here for infotainment. I find this quite useful. At the minute I'm using CarPlay, and my maps and navigation are showing up on here. You can also tweak the display to show you your car positioning in the lane, or you can just have the stats. It also shows you your speed and what it recognises the speed limit to be, and some light indicators here. The usual stuff you'd find on a car dashboard. One other complaint about the steering wheel is that the buttons here aren't mapped. If I press these ones over here, nothing happens. If I'm using Pilot Assist, I can use these buttons to change the speed, either up or down. This one up here triggers Google Assistant and /or Siri. This one down here seems to change the heads-up display, but there are no volume controls. You can't skip tracks, even if I press the ones here on the side. Again, it doesn't seem to do anything. I don't know what this is here for. I've checked the manual, I've checked online. Apparently it should be these right buttons here that control the volume and tracks for music playback. It doesn't. So I don't know what's going on here. The rear view mirror here, along with the wing mirrors, are sort of rimless, so the glass goes right to the edge, and I really like that about Polestar's design. Another quirk for the playback control is that since there are no buttons on the steering wheel, you either have to do it on the screen, reach over here, which is not great if you're paying attention to the road, or you can use the knob here. You can tap it down to play pause, you twist it to change the volume, and then you knock it either left or right to skip tracks. But I've not been able to knock it left or right so far without changing the volume unintentionally, so that's not great. One gripe I have is climate controls. Now, Teslas are also down here at the bottom of the screen, but I don't want to sound biased towards Teslas because obviously I've ordered a new Y, so you know I'm a fan of that vehicle. But you can just tap a little button here to turn up the fan or adjust the temperature. You don't have to go into it. You can do that right at the bottom button. But for me to change the temperature, I have to tap it, and then I can tap the options. Same for heated seat and heated steering. I can't pin those to the bottom part like you can with Tesla. If you want to change the fan speed, you have to tap this and then drag that slider. There's no plus or minus icon. You can't hold this and then swipe the left to right like we have been able to in the Maserati EV, the Grecale Folgore. So I'm not particularly a fan of that. I think it's too many steps and too distracting while you're busy driving. I drove the Polestar 2 a few years ago, and one of my complaints about that was comfortability in the cabin. Now this does seem like a big improvement. There is a much larger cabin interior. You'd expect that since this is an SUV, but this bar here, the center console, seems particularly oddly placed for someone that likes to sit in the car. Me and a few passengers have complained that you can't really move this leg much without having that dig into you, which is wildly uncomfortable. Perhaps that's just a complaint on my end and people I've had in the car rather than a general one, but sharing my feedback. And then below it, I don't know if you can see that there is a big wide open space There is a lip. It is about that tall on the side of it, so anything you put in there, chuck that bottle of water in there, for example, it wouldn't roll straight back out, but you probably wouldn't want to put a backpack in there because it would just tip straight up. It isn't enclosed either. Someone could see straight down there from either of the passenger windows. It's not somewhere to leave your valuables if you left the car. Okay, now we're clicking on gas. Well, at least we should be. Don't seem to be going too fast. We've gone on to a slightly larger A road now, so this will be a great time to try out pilot assist. Okay, so we are going to set it to very sensitive as to whether I'm pressing that button or the side one. We're going to set it to 72 because we don't go. It's now still sitting at 50, 51, 52. See, it likes to leave a really large gap between myself and the car in front. I don't know if you can see the distance there between me and the car in front. It's probably excessively large, if you ask me, bordering on obscenely large for a gap between you and the car in front of you. They have the chevrons on the line. I think it would be 3 chevrons rather than recommended guidance of 2. Yes, and still have to stay on the steering wheel. That's what happens if you take them off. It will shout at you and it will deactivate. Keep that in mind. Beyond that, I think that the interior is quite nice. It charges decently fast, and there's not too much else to say. Okay, so that sort of sums up my my initial impressions and my experience so far with the Polestar 3. Like I said, the car is coming back to me. I will have it a bit longer. I will probably do a full review. I do seem to have rambled on about this car for a while now, so maybe you don't want to see that. Maybe I don't need to do a full-on review, but I probably will do some extra content, maybe a range test. I'll just definitely do something when the Polestar 3 comes back. So like I said earlier, make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you can see that. If you like this sort of video, please drop a like on the video and maybe drop a comment in the section below. And I hate to say it again, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. I've been Connor, this has been the Polestar 3, and yeah, hope you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.